first of all, most of you already know who I am. I'm a patient. I am a clinician. My background is clinical psychology. I got my wonderful degree, and then all of a sudden I had to have 2 brain surgeries to just survive. After that, I became a stay-at-home mom. The doctors who worked on me knew who I was before all of my conditions took over my body. They encouraged me to get back to work and start helping patients who really need it and that I had the skill set to do. One patient turned into 10, turned into 100, and I now have little over 400 patients that I check in on a monthly or bi-weekly basis, and depending on where they are in their care, I may speak to them daily, I may speak to them a couple hours at a time through either a VC or a FaceTime. And I noticed that this is actually a huge need in our community, the support during care, after care. And it's missing. It's a huge missing link. Yes, there is therapists out there, and I encourage every single one of you to see a therapist pre and post surgery. It's very emotional, it's very draining, and it's hard to get out of the trap of being a victim. Empowering patients is the ultimate goal of CCI. We want to do nothing but patient advocacy. Dorothy, the Syringomyelia group, EDS, you guys are absolutely wonderful at the research and the fundraising. God bless you. CCI, we didn't want to do nothing but patient advocacy. Just as Syringomyelia and all the wonderful nurses on their team, I work closely with the recovery team with mast cell patients and develop a trust, a relationship with the patients, and talking a patient into taking a medication that makes them feel like they're not breathing is not healthy, and trying to come up with a creative way for the patients to get to a level of care to where they can take care of themselves after a surgery can be difficult depending on the case. I'm not, because of HIPAA laws, I'm not allowed to talk about the cases, but I have worked with some of the most interesting, Henderson and Bolognese, Greenfield. The recovery is kind of scary even for me and the nurses and the anesthesiologist. It's something we need to come together because it's not just one condition. It's not just one patient. There is a whole group of us, and all these conditions are affecting one another. So, Chiari Connection International was developed even before my Chiari or collective medical group was brought about. It was started in 1996 by Kathleen Grigg, Sandy Rogers, and Joey Rowe. It was the first online support group through Yahoo. And when Facebook came around, they were still there, but Dr. Google also came out. There's good and bad with everything. However, where does each company or advocacy program work when we have so many other things that are providing the same information? You have to find your niche. Our niche is advocacy, helping patients with first knowing what doctors to go to, getting in with those doctors. Sometimes there's a long wait, and these patients don't have time to wait. So we have the relationships with the doctors and sometimes with the hospital, and have a nice conversation and say, hey, can we fit them in? And we present the facts to the doctor, and of course they make time because they have a heart, and that's why they work so hard with us. So making adjustments and finding your niche is definitely what CCI is saying steadfast with. When I found them back in 2003, it was very nice to know that someone was there for me to lean on as my skull, or my brain was falling out of my skull. I had to have a VP shunt and decompression immediately. My brain had swelled to an exorbitant rate that half of my cerebellum was taken out. I know most of you are going to gasp right now, but it took me about 1.5 years to learn how to walk, read, type, speak, everything all over again. I did have quite a bit of memory loss. But it's also those same doctors that worked with me and said, you will get back, but you have to work harder. Advocacy is also allowing a patient to lean on you and say, hey, I can't do this right now. And coming up with ways of saying, how about a walk on the beach? Can you count how many shells you walk past? Because during that walk, every step is so painful that you have to distract them of why they're exercising and help them heal mentally as well as physically. And that's what we get to do with each other. Make each other laugh while we cry. Advocacy is so important. Mental health is so important during brain surgery. It is kind of common. One of the other things that comes with this group of patients, and I am probably the biggest leader, is we're very thick-headed. We like to do things our own way. And allowing a patient to fall flat on their face is sometimes what they need, because they need to realize that their way of going about it is not working. And just being there with the smile and a hug and say, hey, let's try it this way. What do you think? And just being patient. So 7 years ago, I was asked to help out with CCI after I had already established working with individual patients. Kathleen Grigg, the original director, needed some much-needed personal time through the tragic events in her own personal life. And the plea came to me it hit home, because not only do most of us have children that are also affected with the conditions that we have. My own son got almost everything of mine. And learning to be his role model meant I had to get my life together. And a lot of families need that. They need to see other families living by example. I am not perfect whatsoever. I have bad days, I lose my temper, and I turn my phone off. Because I know if I react to a patient the way I reacted to my son, it's not healthy. And so I just gather my thoughts, put it back together, and as a team, I have 5 girls right now that are working with me. As a team, we hold each other together, and we also hold each other accountable. And developing a patient protocol for pre and post after surgery it's fun. It's being a cheerleader. And I try to keep most of my work stuff off of my personal page and on my work site, but it doesn't work that well. A lot of these patients I spend so much time with. My son and my daughter are with the pediatric side and encouraging patients and playing games. Getting them to walk down the hall after a decompression is kind of fun in a way. It's cute. But the ultimate goal is being there for each other and being vulnerable and allowing each other to love one another in a way that we can. So CCI will be hopefully, my main goal is giving each one of the Chiari specialists their own advocate, and this way all of their patients will have someone to go to. And I'm not stretched so thin. God bless you. So, one of the main things that has come up, it's our personal experience that give us the passion to become advocates to others. To be a real advocate is to serve and support the patient with any of the doctors they choose without pressing our personal views upon them. Support and guidance for their medical journey. How do we provide the best options when there are so many different approaches to the same procedure? I know for a fact all the Chiari specialists do decompressions different ways. It does not mean it's right, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's working for that surgeon and that patient. I am a huge believer of no doctor bashing or patient bashing. That's not going to get us anywhere. I follow patients outside of the Chiari world, and you have to take a moment and realize this is their journey, not yours. And we can advise them to do the best, but they need to make their own choices. Advocates, we get to stand beside them through good or bad. And just to give you a little personal reference, there's a lot of times that it's the medical community that don't allow us to know what we have and how to best help our own medical situation. Back in 2002, when I had the initial onset of aspiration of the Chiari malformation, one of the best, and still one of the best neurologists in New York City chose not to tell me that I had a Chiari malformation and or juicy ventricles, because his personal experience did not see where the benefit would outweigh the cost. He personally believed I would die on the surgical table. Now, my friends, my family, my colleagues, they didn't give up on me. I went for 3 more consults after that, and I'll never forget the day that Dr. Rappaport in New Jersey, he just looked at me, and I don't know if any of you can relate to this. When you have a doctor give you such striking news, you only see their mouths going and you hear absolutely nothing. I went through that. 2 brain surgeries just to live, VP shunt and decompression. That alone stood with me, and that is what I want to help patients with. Taking somebody with you to a doctor's appointment, or having somebody next to you during a VC or video conference, or even recording it, is so important, because you're in shock and you're not going to hear all the information that the doctor is saying. So advocacy is also a good role with that, and making sure that the person with you, or when you're recording, can translate for you anything that you don't understand. Just as our parents wanted to give us a better life than they had, we would like to give patients a better path with their journey. But how do we do that when the medical community is not all on the same page, same thought process? Where do advocates and the patients go for correct medical information? How do we go about sharing this with a non-based opinion? How can we support the patients while they have time to consult with a specialist for an agreed medical plan? How can we support our community while so that the same voice, the same passion, and the same desire to help the patients? I know this weekend is going to provide all of that information for you. Together, all of these groups have their individual strengths, and then as a together, we will learn to rise up and unite and help you. We're here, and we're ready to listen. So one of the things that Vince Lombardi said best, it's an individual commitment to a group effort that makes teamwork. Making excuses of why things have not happened, I am personally learning, is not enough. If you are living by example, you are doing, and the excuses stop. Even if you say, hey, I'm having a bad day, let me get back to that. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Henry Ford said it back then, and all of us will learn to do this together. And I appreciate you, Dorothy, for bringing us together, and I'm looking forward to many more years of doing this and the endless nights of work. Thank you.